Welcome to This is Futbol. Bienvenidos a This is Futbol. Today we have a special episode for you guys. We have a legend on today, a legend of the local MLS game, somebody who's played in Mexico, somebody who's played in a couple teams here in the MLS, and we're so glad to have him on. We want to welcome on Greg Garza. So welcome on, Greg.
Thank you guys for having me, man. Pleasure. Pleasure. I wouldn't say legend,
Absolutely.
man, but thank you, man. Appreciate the
I don't know, man.
compliment.
I gotta say, my first MLS game ever was at Mercedes-Benz Field, and you were playing in it, and you played a hell of a game. So for me, you're my legend, man. You were my first MLS live game. So there you go.
No, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Man, that's took you that long to go to an MLS game, man?
Well,
that's what
let me
I,
tell
that's
you,
what I was thinking.
I was an original. I was an original. So
Holy
I'm a Miami
moly.
Fusion fan from the original days.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
we never really had a team down here. And so one of the first games that I was able to go back to an MLS game was I went up to visit my cousin up in Atlanta. Just so happened you guys were playing DC United. I think Wayne might have been playing that game too. That was one of
Yeah,
Wayne's
yeah.
games, and
Okay.
hey, hell of a game. You guys won, so
Awesome,
uh,
man.
and you played great. So
Cool.
I
Thanks,
thank you
man.
for that
Just,
Appreciate it.
experience.
just to be fair, Danny's an Inter Miami fan. He's been an Inter Miami fan for 3 years, and last night was his first time going to the stadium. So yeah, it took him a while to actually go to Inter Miami games as
No
well.
way, man. No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. That is crazy.
Yeah, I've watched every single game, but stadium's a little far from where I live, and I've got a 2-year old, and so it's a little tough. But now that
They
he's
have a
growing
stadium
up,
in Fort Lauderdale, yeah? That's where they put it?
that's right, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well, it's
at
not
least
it's not
till
it's
we,
not in it's not in Miami then, man. So
it's
uh,
not in Miami. It's not in
that's what we
Miami.
say. I mean, we just actually got approved for Miami Freedom Park about a couple months ago. So
okay.
Jorge Mas and David Beckham were able to get that approved. So we
Cool,
should
man.
have a stadium in Miami sometime around 2025 or 2026. So we're hoping
That'll
that
be
that once that's up, yeah, I already made a vow to the Inter Miami faithful that I will get season tickets as soon as the stadium is in Miami.
man, I can imagine.
But let's get into a little bit about you, Greg. We know you have this fantastic program that you put together with one of your former co-players, Michael Parkhurst, and we want you to tell us a little bit about that program.
Yeah, for sure. For Mike and I, after retiring, this it's always a bittersweet moment when you retire, right? You're trying to figure out what the hell you're going to do next. And for us, I think going through retirement and kind of trying to figure out what that next phase, that next step was, and something we could do that we would be passionate about. Mike actually called me on the phone one day, and he'd already been retired for a couple of years. I think I had just retired, just announced my retirement. And we had this idea of, even when we played together, of just speaking about young players coming through the system, young players that had immense amount of talent at their feet. I'm sure if you guys played soccer, I'm sure you guys can think about players that you played with when you were at a young age, and you probably think to yourself, whatever happened to that one kid? Why didn't he make it pro? Why didn't he make it as far as he could? And so we had this idea, and realized, it wasn't necessarily for us in our own experience and our own wisdom and knowledge that we gained throughout the game. That it wasn't because the God-given talent that we had in our feet. It was actually the mindset, the way we carried ourselves on and off the field, the responsibilities that we had, the way we were able to hold ourselves accountable. And the mental game was so much more important than just the physical attributes and the talent, the God-given talent that we had at our feet. So, for us, it was kind of a way to give back to the game that gave so much to us, and really help the next generation understand key components that allowed us to create that consistent longevity of success. And I think with Michael being the captain here in Atlanta, and I always say I was more of like a silent leader, someone that kind of led the pack by leading by example and by action. It gave a good way to kind of combine those two things, and find a way to just really help young kids understand that if they do have the opportunity to use sport and use soccer within their lives, that these are the things that we did that made us successful. These are the things that we, really kept ourselves responsible every single day, and kind of give them the pathway of understanding that, if they have that opportunity one day, they hold on to it and they never let go of it.
Yeah, that's great.
Definitely,
And
definitely.
let me tell you, so we had Cello Balboa on last week, and it's interesting that we're talking about recruiting and young kids and stuff because both Nico and myself played. I played high school soccer down here in South Florida, and then I was recruited in college. And Cello even said, back in his day, we asked him, how did you get recruited? And we all said, if it wasn't through, some college coach coming out to scout you, or you didn't go through the ODP program, I mean, the channels really to get to the pro game coming out, of the United States was really tough. And so it's really good and really, important that you and Mike have created this program where you can kind of work on that mental aspect, and it is tough for a young kid in this age, and with you got social media now, you've got YouTube out there, and we've got we talked about it locally, we've got 67 academies in South Florida, and so you know how hard it must be on a young kid to come through up these academies, and you see your friends who might be a little bit better than you, or you want to get to there, and it really takes a toll on the mental health of a child. And so it's really important, what you and Mike are doing to help them and guide them through this, because at the end of the day, like you said, you look to some of those players that you played with back in the day, and you said, what, why didn't that guy ever get there? And it could have been something with mental health, or something where he didn't get the somebody, I guess, tutoring him, or somebody kind of guiding him, the guidance that he needed to get to that next level. So it's really important what you guys are providing to that local community.
Oh, thank you, man. That means a lot. We've been able to connect with so many different people, and we're not psychologists. I loved sports psychology even when I was a player. But at the end of the day, one thing that I can kind of share is just that experience, right? I've kind of been there, done that, gone through the same path. And you said it, even when I was a kid, it was only ODP that kind of gave us that pathway to create something, right? And nowadays you have so many more pathways. The leagues, I'm even still learning the leagues on the boys and girls side now, being involved in youth soccer. It's tough to understand at times, right? And to kind of figure out what the best pathway is. And it's not only the kids that can be confused, it's also the parents, right? Of trying to figure out what's best. And there's immense amount of pressure on a lot of these kids. So, just kind of helping guide them through each and every phase of whatever they go through within their youth careers. And then at the end of the day, right, we can be very honest and say what's the percentage of any of these kids becoming pro, and it's less than 1%, right? So, but a lot of these assets and traits and qualities that we are teaching them will ultimately make them successful in whatever they want to do in life. I always tell people, I was never the best player on any team that I ever played on, even as a pro, right? I can be very honest and say that, but I was a great pro. And I knew my responsibilities. I was the first one there, and I was the last one to leave. I did ice baths every day. I did all of these things to kind of keep myself accountable and hold myself accountable to be tip-top shape and the most responsible. To, if that opportunity was there, I was going to hold on to it, and I wasn't going to let go. So it's the same thing for these kids as they continue to grow. We always said, if we can nip the bud as quickly as possible. You look at homegrowns, right? You look at how many homegrowns. I would love to see the percentage rate of how many homegrowns sign second contracts, because a lot of homegrowns are signed, but I'm not sure a lot of homegrowns sign a lot of second contracts. And I think it's more so once they get there, not the necessarily mindset of just becoming complacent, but it's understanding the ins and outs, understanding the rights and wrongs, the do's and don'ts, and so many things that make a lot of guys that last a long time super successful.
That I did see about homegrowns, now that you mention it, is a lot of homegrowns have been traded over the last couple of off seasons. Inter Miami has actually traded for a few homegrowns. One of them, Jake Lacava, is one of them. The other one is Benjamin Kramashi, who actually got some playing time last night. And the other one that we traded for, which was the biggest one a couple off seasons ago, was Bryce Duke, who got some playing time last year and some this year's, some yesterday as well, which we all thought that he played, pretty decent minutes yesterday. It's important how you say, do they sign that second contract? And I've been very vocal on Twitter and on the show, in at least my way of how I would manage a squad or whatever is, it's very like almost like a business where I like these younger players, and I would like these younger players to come up and then kind of sell them away, kind of like an Ajax or something like that. And I don't see a lot of these MLS teams doing that and using their homegrowns. I see them going over to Europe and trying to bring some older talent, and even trying to sign some older talent from here and playing older talent over the younger talent. And I think that's where we're kind of missing out in the MLS is we really want to see those homegrowns, those young players really make an impact on our teams.
Most definitely. I think it's not about making it; it's about making it last, right? And that's something that, I think for Mike and I, we really saw a lot of guys come up through the system that just didn't understand that commitment piece of it, didn't understand that consistency piece of it. And now this kind of gives us a chance to kind of nip the bud for the younger guys coming up through coming up through the system. So yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I wanted to ask you, since we're talking about homegrown players and players that come up through the ranks, how has the development of a young player changed over time since you came out compared to what it is now?
So much, right? Man, it's such a hard one to answer, right? Because you look back and it's so funny because I'll scout a lot of kids. I'll scout a lot of young kids, and it's all what I've learned is, even sitting down with scouts or even U.S. soccer scouts, it's all about comparisons, right? It's all about making comparisons in regards to where their upbringing is, if they are from South Florida, if they are from NorCal, or if they are from the Northeast, and back in ODP days, it was like region 1, region 3, region 4, region 2, right? Um, I'm assuming that you guys are region 3, so region 3 we used to kill it all the time,
Yeah,
right? We used to be
Yeah.
the best team always, right?
yeah,
Always.
And maybe region 1 and region 4 we compete with us. Region 2, man, kids in Ohio don't play soccer, man. So,
They don't.
but that was kind of how it was, right? But now you have it's not like that anymore, right? You have so many kids kids in Ohio and kids in Iowa can play soccer now. So the youth sport has grown so much in the developmental phase of it's like I said, there's so many ways to access so many different leagues. Every club now has 10 teams in each age group. It's unbelievable, right? From their first
yeah,
team to their 10th team. And it's a difficult one to speak about, right? Because, you know, sometimes creating so much as development can sometimes be too much. And how do you find a way to kind of bridge that gap of creating, a platform for the elite, right? Because we want to continue to grow as a soccer country. Sometimes when you create so many leagues and so many developmental leagues, it kind of, there's a lot of kids that I personally think get lost, right? They become diamonds in the rough. And I think us as a nation is to find a way to bridge that gap and create, one certain league or a couple of certain leagues that can really help, kids that have the opportunity to showcase their talent, and also in an affordable way, right? All of these really big leagues, you have parents that are paying $5,000-6,000 a year for their kids to play soccer without buying the $2,000 uniforms and spending another $10,000 on travel a year. So there's a lot of kids out there that don't get that opportunity to develop and don't get that opportunity to have the best coaches or be in the best environments or have the best showcase environments. So I'm sure that'll always be a topic, and I'm hoping, I don't believe it'll be in my lifetime that those things change.
yeah.
But I'm hoping in the future that's one thing, man, that we can continue to kind of cultivate and help, right? There's so much talent out there, right? You look at the national team right now and you look how many different cultural names are on the back of the jerseys. That you look at, I mean, what time is it? The U17s right now are playing Mexico, right? Game just
Yeah.
started at 8. I might just turn it on while I'm speaking with you guys so I can keep up, because we have a few players on that we mentor on that team.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Oh,
cool, cool.
nice,
Let
um,
us know if
nice.
they score. Yeah, let us know.
Yeah,
I might turn it
definitely,
on as well,
definitely.
actually.
but you look at the last names on that team and you see so many
From everywhere,
cultured kid from everywhere, man. Yeah, and those kids,
definitely.
that's the beauty of the U.S., man. None of us are, you look at my last name, Garza, right? There's so many
Yeah,
kids that are just from anywhere and everywhere, and I think the more we can do of that, the better. That's what makes the U.S. so beautiful, man. That's what brings us together,
Well,
brings all the cultures together.
and talking about culture, so and you literally just mentioned it. We see a lot of like Mexican American players, for example, Ricardo Pepi, Brandon Vasquez, who have recently chosen to play for the U.S. over Mexico. Do you think that it's a possibility that you might be responsible or one of the pillars for choosing to play for U.S. over Mexico? Because I know that you spent a lot of a lot of times playing in Tijuana in Mexico, and you did have a chance to play for both because you have a dual nationality, correct? So,
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
So do you think that you might have been, maybe one of the pillars responsible for kind of like tipping the domino and having these young kids choose the U.S. over Mexico?
Man, I think there's a lot of guys. I think there's a lot of guys that have done that even before my time. You know, to be completely honest with you, I never really viewed myself. You know, I always loved being Mexican American, even as a kid, but I never really viewed myself to kind of take in that Mexican heritage until I had that opportunity, right? And that's something that I tell kids about all the time. Is understanding that word opportunity is massive within their development, right? I had the chance to get my Mexican passport, which ultimately gave me the opportunity to play in Mexico, win a championship there, play in Copa Libertadores, get to the semifinals of Conca Champions, kind of create a name for myself within what that era of my career was, and it was the highlight of my career, those 5 years in Tijuana and in Atlas. So you look at it, and I took the most of that opportunity. So it's for me. I think from the get go, I mean, we talk about it all the time, and I use it as an example. Now I look back on it. I did the very first youth camp for the national team at the age of 13. It was the under 14 national team. And I think there's only a few of us. There might not be many of us, but I did every single age group of every single national team all the way up until the full team. And I played in every single age group, and I was started in every single age group. So if you look from the under 14s, under 15s, under 17s, under 18s, under 20s, under 23s, and into the full team, I never really looked at it until recently. It's like, man, I was one of the top 11 players in every age group of the United States most of my career as a kid.
See, you are a legend. You see, I
no,
was right at the beginning of the show. There you go, man.
but that's the opportunity that the U.S. gave me, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I kind of wanted to hint to, is that without that, I wouldn't have been able to make my career what it was, right? And so I'm very fortunate and grateful for that program, for U.S. Soccer to really give me that opportunity and opening doors. Whereas some of these guys, right, their doors open in different ways, right? You look at all these, you look at the German Americans from the past, right? Unfortunately, Germany had closed the doors on them at some point in time in youth development within their national teams, and they turned their opportunities towards the U.S. And that opened massive doors for a lot of those guys to ultimately play in a World Cup, to ultimately do more things and build their career. And at the end of the day, it's a lot of people always ask me, what was your favorite team to ever play for as a pro? I didn't wake up when I was a kid and say, oh, I got to play for this team and this team and this team. My only goal and my only dream in life was to be a pro. So every team that I played for was my favorite team. Right. And, and so that's kind of, my way of viewing things. Right. Of course, there's going to be teams for me that stand out, much more significantly than others. Right. But, at the end of the day, I always look towards the word of opportunity, and whatever way these kids can deserve and create opportunities for themselves, whether it be with the U.S., whether it be with Mexico. I mean, kudos to them, man. That's what it's all about.
Definitely, definitely. And going back to what you're saying, opportunity, which had played a big part on your youth career. We see that you went through different stages in your life. You went to South America, you played in the US, you also played in Europe. How did each place played on a role on your formation?
Man, so many ways, so many ways. I mean, I was a 12-year-old kid that left home and moved to Brazil, right? And grew up with, the likes of Oscar, who played at Chelsea and won a Champions League and now plays in China and makes trillions of dollars. And, even Casemiro was on the younger team than me, dude. So, training with those guys when I was a kid, you look back and I'm very grateful and fortunate. But not only within the formation of how I was as a player, but I would even say more so of just becoming the person, becoming the type of professional that I was probably, I think indented and instilled with me in every single place that I got to be, whether it was Brazil or whether it was Portugal. I think, I wouldn't have had those opportunities to develop that professional mindset that I did in each of those places. I wouldn't have been able to do that in the States at those ages, right? being in Portugal or being in Brazil, or even going through the residency program with U.S. Soccer, what it used to be, and now you have academies, so you don't need it anymore. But those phases of my life created this professional mindset of, um, nutrition, of, understanding how to take care of your body, of weightlifting, of going to the gym and doing prehab and stretching beforehand and afterwards, seeing a massage therapist, seeing a chiropractor, all of these different things that, once I did get the opportunity, like I said, to be in a place to where I could fulfill my dream, I used all of those lessons of what I had learned in each and every culture to kind of make me the type of player, because I think we're born with a certain talent, right? There's something that God gives us, but the type of person that you are within that environment, I think makes a huge difference in how successful you are. And obviously that's why we created the mental aspect of things, right? And helping these kids
Definitely.
understand that, man, there's so many kids out there that were so much better than me when I was a kid. There's so many professional players that were so much better than me as a player, but unfortunately they didn't achieve as much, right? Some of those guys will never be able to say they won 2 championships in 2 different places, right? Because it's not necessarily, in my opinion, it's not necessarily how great you are as a player. It's how you carry yourself, how good of a teammate you are, how responsible you are, how well you respond to coaches, and there's that political side of it as well, as always, right? So I think each and every place that I got to play and live, I learned from those cultures more than anything, whether it was just the languages. We always use, and sorry I've taken so long on the answer, but we always use the example within, Mike always gives the example of what my role was within Atlanta United, right? Besides getting up and down the field and doing 1,000 overlaps per game, right?
Yeah.
That probably wasn't my best role as a player on the field. My best role as a player on the field was being a translator between Tata and all the players. And that was my role. I speak 3 different languages and I speak them fluently. And to send a message of what Michael Parkhurst had to say or what Jeff Lawrence had to say to Miggy Almiron or Joseph Martinez. Well, Joseph speaks 6 different languages, but all of these different guys that didn't speak a lick of English, right? I had to be that gel and that bridge that kind of really brought everybody together. And I mean, I was a big clown. I was a big goofball in the locker room, man. So I got to do things in so many different languages and bring kind of the camaraderie together. And without that, I'm not sure if we would have been as successful, right? And so,
Right.
but I know I can look back and I can say that was my main role. And those are things in my opinion you can teach, right? I can't teach a kid how to be as talented. I can't teach speed. I can't teach, all of these other things that these kids already have. But I can teach them how to be within a locker room. I can teach them, these are things that I did that made me successful, even if I wasn't the best player on the field.
Right,
And
right,
for a
right, right.
really long time. So those are things that I look back on for sure in every culture that I learned from.
Exactly. So you mentioned a little bit about Tijuana. I wanted to get into it, but you also mentioned Tata Martino, which I have a really interesting question that I want to ask you. So you talked about Martino and how he was basically a big part of your career as a coach. You won a MLS trophy with him. Can you kind of go a little bit into how your relationship was with Tata and basically in terms of all the coaches that you had on your career, where would you rank Tata on the list of those coaches?
Yeah, for sure. There's 2 coaches that always stand out to me. Um, Fortunate enough, those 2 coaches I was able to win a championship with. Tata is obviously the one here in Atlanta, and Turku Mohamed, the one in Tijuana.
Turco.
Um, both of them Argentinian. Both of them, the people's, people person, man. They understood what it was like to be in a locker room. They understood what it was like to be successful in locker rooms, and they understood every personality that came along within a locker room, right? Because they had been there, and I look back at them. They didn't only serve as great mentors, but they served as people that were able to send a message and still have everyone involved. And I guess I can kind of say that more so for Turco Muhammad, because I didn't play so much for Turco, and I still felt so much a part of the team, right? I had some important plays within that successful run that we had, but I wasn't one of the key players to that team. But he still made me feel so, and that's a quality that not every coach has, right? That's a quality that I think Tata struggled with here in Atlanta, because I was a key player here, and I knew I was always going to be a key player here in Atlanta. There were 13, 14 of us that were always going to be key players. And unfortunately, the other players, they most likely knew at the beginning of the season. It's kind of like Tuca with Tigres. He picks his 11 players that are going to play the whole season, and that's it. If you're not in those 11, 12 players, you're probably not going to play one game. And there's some funny stories that Tuca has in Mexico, but Tata was very similar. But when I view Tata, what I had with him was just this immense amount of respect. Obviously Tata means grandpa in Spanish, right? So it's,
Right.
you look back and there was this immense amount of respect that I think all of us had towards everything that he said, right? It's like when I listen to my dad speak, I'm like, Dad, what the hell are you saying, man, dude? You don't know shit. Right? But if I listen, unfortunately I don't have a grandpa. I never had it. My both grandpas, I never got to really know. But I feel like if you listen to one of your grandparents, you really sit down and you listen, right? And it's just a different way of the way that they speak, and you just really pay attention, and you kind of really take in, and everything resonates with you. And Tata had that ability. Everything that he said, we really paid attention, and he kind of made us believe how good we really were. And he made us feel that we were important. I think that was huge for me as players, right? I always use this reference for the players that I speak to, and a lot of kids that we work with, is that you only take criticism from someone you take advice from. And for me, a lot of kids and a lot of people always ask us, how are you able to take criticism when you played at a professional level, right? And for me, it's a lot of people are always going to talk crap and talk BS, right? Whatever it might be, but I wouldn't take advice from them about anything with what I'm doing in the soccer world, right?
Right.
So their criticism means nothing. But if Tata were to criticize me in a constructive way and want to get something more out of me, I know he's doing so because he knows I can do better, because he believes in me. And I would rather have a coach really dig into me than rather say nothing at all. And Tata had that ability to really, spread a message and kind of make you believe in somewhat of his criticism towards you, but knowing that as almost like a grandpa, knowing that you can be better.
Right.
And that's an ability that he had as a coach, right? Not every coach has that.
Right.
And that's something that will always stick out to me.
Right. And talking about that, it's funny. I call my grandpa Tata. I'm from Uruguay.
Okay.
My son calls my dad Tata. So,
Okay.
it's all in there. Talking about Tata, do you think, and that's a really cool story that you're telling us. A lot of people know him from, him coaching in Barcelona, and, him coaching in Argentina and all that. So they don't get to hear those, those cool stories that you tell about him, like being him with them in the
or they
locker
don't
room.
get to hear that now, because in Mexico he didn't have a good time.
That too. But getting into my next question, do you think, and being being on a team that he coached, do you think he might be the right guy for the U.S. men's national team?
First and foremost, I gotta say Uruguay no más, because that's all you guys say, man. Every Uruguayan,
Uruguay no
Uruguayan
más.
teammate I've ever,
Every two
Uruguay no más.
sentences.
Yeah.
This guy's a legend, bro. Nico, I love this guy.
But I think, man, into your question, I mean, any coach that you're going to have, you can have any coach in a Mexican national team that they're going to be highly criticized every single day. You have 7 shows on TV, man, every single day that all they do is just criticize. There is not one word of positivity towards, even if Mexico wins 10-0, man, they will find something negative to talk about. And that's what keeps everybody involved, right? That's what keeps everybody in tune of what's next, right? They're always seeking the next big thing. The media does a lot in Mexico. That's one thing that, man, I do not miss. The media in Mexico is much different, right? It's really funny because I always remember a certain moment here within Atlanta with all the Argentinians, and you had guys from I have Paraguay, Chile. I'm trying to think of all the South American places, Venezuela, and all the places that we had. I remember the first season in 2017, we lost to New York City FC 3-0 in New York. And we got back on the plane and we flew in the next day. And when we got to the airport, there was all these Atlanta fans, and they were like cheering us on when we got there, and like, you'll get him next time. You'll get him next time. Don't worry. You'll get him next time. And all these guys were looking at me. This is the first time they've ever been in the States. They're like, man, where are you used to getting bags of piss thrown at us after the game, man. You know, these guys are telling us good job. What do you mean good job? We just got our asses handed to us 3-0. But I think that's why so many guys never want to go back, man. They come to the MLS, they want to play here forever, man.
Yeah.
But tata to the U.S. men's national team, I'm not sure. I think in my personal opinion, I think they'll keep it in house. I'm not sure. I mean, have they made
Would
the
you
decision? Have they made the
would you
decision?
want that? No, they haven't made a decision. We don't even have a sporting director anyway, so
Yeah.
we gotta get a general manager first. But would you be okay having a coach from in house, or would you consider having a coach from overseas? Doesn't really have to be Tata, because I hear there's names like there's big names, that they want to go for Mourinho. They're even trying to go even for Jurgen Klopp, if he becomes available.
Yeah, I mean, whatever is best for their development, right? And it's I'm not a very opinionated person, right? It's like if some dude signs a really cool contract, man, it's like even if I don't think very highly of that guy as a player, man, congrats to that guy, man, because he's done well. And so same thing kind of goes towards the national team. As long as they continue to develop and they continue to do well, that's all that matters, man. And are there going to be players that you kind of can question? For sure. I mean, even in this World Cup, right? We felt that there are a couple of players that got left out, but at the end of the day, it's we got what we got. It was a moment of truth of kind of where we stand with the big dogs, and hopefully we can continue to grow, as a nation and as a soccer country to where we have some pretty exciting times ahead of us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, we did get to see them play, pretty good in this year's World Cup, and we got the next one coming up in 2026. It'll be at home. A lot of people are calling this team the golden generation. I'm not so sure. I'm more biased to the '94 generation. That's just me. I'm a little bit older. Um, but that's just me. Now, I do think we have some fantastic players. Although some of them are on some teams that are fighting relegation and they're not even getting some minutes. So I do think, that they should find some, maybe hopefully in the summer transfer window, find some teams where they can get some minutes, because I do think at the end of the day, we have a team to compete. I just think we're maybe one or two players away and a really good coach away. But other than that, I think we could make some noise in the next World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys think, Nico and Greg, but
Yeah. I'll make sure to send Tab Ramos a message and tell him that you're brown nosing him right now, bro. So,
well, we did ask Cello last week about that Brazil game.
Uruguay no mas right there. That Uruguay no mas right there is you're protecting your. We just need some dude with the Uruguayan national last name on the new team we have right now, bro, and you'll be fine.
I mean, I'll get his jersey, that's for sure.
Uh,
Oh man. Well, all right. Another thing we want to get into. So, we talked a lot about your life as a young soccer player. We talked a lot about you playing overseas. We talked a little about the MLS. I want to talk a little bit more about the MLS because like we said at the top of the show, we're Inter Miami supporters. We're now going into our fourth season. We haven't really made that much noise. We're kind of we kind of made some noise coming into the league. We were going to bring some big players and all that. We did get Higuain. But you played on a team who was, kind of an expansion team, and you guys won in your second season. So, how can what can you tell our followers of our program about what it took you guys to win that championship in the second year? And what can you kind of talk about to compare yourselves to this Inter Miami team that we have now?
I think there's an easy answer for that. I think it's go big or go home. Uh, within the team that I think we created, but to be honest, we really didn't have any idea of how massive and how talented as a team we were going to be until that first game of 2017 against the Red Bull. And even though we lost that very first game in 2017, I think that was the initial phase of us understanding that we have a hell of a team. And then as far as we got within 2017, I think we we really realized that 2018 had to be our year. I think we all sat down at the beginning of that season, even in preseason, and realized, okay, this has to be our year to win it all. So, in regards of creating a team, my biggest recipe for success within the MLS is to get some really talented South American kids that can change a game within seconds, not European, South American kids that can change a game within seconds.
All right.
And other than that, you get some really hardworking American guys that'll back them up. That's my opinion, right? And I think all teams that have been champions the past few years, I don't think they have a European that's changing the game, man. It's all South American youngins, guys that are changing the game.
Yeah.
And my personal opinion, I think a lot of Europeans come to this league and I think this league is going to be absolute shit. And then they come here and they realize, holy crap, this league is actually pretty good.
It is. It's not as technical as a European game, but it's a lot more physical. And that's what they don't understand. They come here, 30, 31, 32 years, and they think that they're going to walk all over some of these guys. But, the fact of the matter is, yeah, you can touch a ball, but some of these guys are going to run past you and you can't keep up with them. And that's been my criticism, at least of Inter Miami, over the last few years as a local team. Is they've been bringing these players over from Europe, and I've been like I said, on the side of I think the right business plan for an MLS team is to recruit from South America, Central America, and Canada, basically all the Americas, young players as you can, build them up, and then try to sell them to Europe. I think that is the absolute perfect MLS business model. And I mean, some teams are following it. You see Dallas, they've gotten some guys overseas. Seattle has gotten some guys overseas.
Austin's doing great.
Do you see? I mean, you just named those two, and from the greatest country in the world, which is Texas, because that's where I'm from. and I said country, man. So, but
everything's bigger over there. That's what I hear.
Yeah. So. Oh yeah. But you look at those two teams. You look at Dallas and you look at Austin, right? You have the likes of South guys that can come in and change a game within seconds, because that's what you need, right? You need a guy that can just, if anything and everything is going wrong, I'm going to give it to that guy and he can do something special. And then you need the likes of Paul Arriola and Sebastian Leggett and all these guys that are industrial, hardworking guys that will work their tails off until the end of the game. And that's a recipe for success. You have industrial guys that will do everything they can to find a way to give it to that one guy who can change a game within seconds. And when teams find that recipe, man, it's hard to stop. And if you have your team to believe in that, I mean, you look at the end of the day, nobody knew who the hell Joseph Martinez was before he was in Atlanta United. Nobody knew who the hell Miguel Almiron was before he came to Atlanta United. No one knew. I didn't even know, right? I knew a lot of players. I didn't know who the hell those guys were. Right. For all I knew, Joseph had failed everywhere he had been at Young Boys, at Torino, and he hadn't been able to make a name and kind of make a dent in European soccer. And I remember the first training I got back from the national team. I was with the national team in January camp, and we did crossing and finishing, and I sent him a cross in, and he did like a bicycle kick on the top of the 18 man and just upper 90. I was like, okay, holy shit, this guy's a great player. So, it's.
You did that a couple of games, huh?
Oh, yeah. And it's just out of nowhere, right? And you see things like that as a player, and you think, okay, we're in good hands. We're in good shape. But those guys came, they're diamonds in the rough that you just find, but that have potential, right? And it's up to a coach, it's up to an organization, and that would be my answer to how maybe Joseph is going to do in Miami. Is it's all about where he feels comfortable, right? Obviously he's one of my best friends, and we keep in touch regularly, but if he feels comfortable and he feels that love, there's different types of players. You have to know how to work with their egos. You have to know how to work with their personalities, and you have to understand how they are on and off the field. And so if he can kind of find that balance, he can do some damage. I mean, even the games that he played not so much here in Atlanta last year, every game that he did play, he was able to score. So it's kind of getting him, putting him in those right spots, and building the team around where they can kind of create chances for him.
Well, he's got two huge pockets of talent here in Miami that are real behind him. Doral and Weston, those are are two pockets of where our Venezuelans are located out. And I can tell you that I was at the stadium last night, and they were all out there. The Venezuelan flags were all out there going hard for him. And I'll tell you, man, he was hustling. He was going hard out there. I mean, that was one of my comments I made on Twitter. I mean, he was trying hard, and that's all you can ask from him. Sorry,
No,
Nico, I didn't mean
he's
to interrupt you.
go
No, no,
ahead.
I wanted to go back into that Joseph talk because we know that he had some tough injuries, and that's hard to come back from because in your case, you also had a tough injury. I wanted to know a little bit more about that. Like how hard is it for a professional player to come back from that? Not only on the physical aspect, but also on the mental aspect of the game.
For sure, man. For me, my biggest injury was probably at the peak of my career. I just, signed
Yeah.
one of my biggest contracts with Atlas. I just got on the roster to Gold Cup, and then right after that was Copa America. I was supposed to go to Copa America as well, and my body just started giving up on me. It was starting to affect me in my personal life. And I think when you have kids and you have a family and you're not able to do things, you're not able to do certain things with your family, you're not able to do certain things with your kids because of what your body and how your body's reacting, then that's a huge message. So ultimately I had to make a pretty hard decision in regards to kind of starting from the bottom, right? Ultimately, and and that time, I had to kind of learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to, walk again in a pool, on a treadmill in a pool, or kind of just go through the motions of understanding what it was going to take to jog again, what it was going to take to even kick a soccer ball again, and gaining that movement. So I think everything happens for a reason. I think I've been so fortunate and lucky to have so many people that can kind of you know guided me towards getting out of that, and being able to play again. And ultimately, Atlanta United was my second chance in a career. Right? I didn't even think I
Yeah.
was going to ever play again. So Atlanta United gave me that chance and kind of took a it was a flip of a coin. Right? We're going to take this guy who's you know from all they knew I was just crippled, man. So. Coming back from a major injury and ultimately sparked my career again and got me a few more years to play the beautiful game. So, at the end of the day, very grateful for that. But there's a lot of mental aspects that go behind it, right? It's a game of patience. I feel like whatever you put into something, that's what you'll get out of it, right? I use this saying all the time with my mentees, and it was on a Pele documentary not too long ago, right before he passed away, when he was in a chair, and he said the first emotion that he felt after achieving of winning 3 World Cups. I mean, nobody will ever do that ever again, but after winning 3 World Cups, the first emotion that he felt was relief. And it wasn't joy, and it wasn't accomplishment, and it wasn't all of these other emotions, right? If I were to ask anybody, what do you feel after you get a good grade on a test, or what do you feel after you win an important game? Relief is probably like the fifth emotion that they'll say. And Pele he said in his words of Pele was that he always sought to seek, or he always sought relief to be the first emotion that he felt, because he knew the preparation, everything that went in behind it, because he knew how hard that achievement, or how high he was aiming for success. Because if he wouldn't have felt relief, he would have felt regret. And if you feel regret, then at the end of the day, it's because you didn't put as much as you could into that, of what you wanted to achieve. So I think that kind of goes towards me going through a lot of injuries, is that I did PT 2 times a day. I did PT 3 times a day sometimes, and I put absolutely everything I could into trying to want to get better. Right? If I would have succeeded or failed, I knew at the end of the day I could have felt relief, because I put everything I could have, and I wouldn't have regretted anything in making that decision. So that's kind of the tough mindset that a lot of guys go through. But if you do, you go at it day by day, you can get back to getting to do what you love.
Yeah, and I think that's an important message out there for the youngsters out there. That Greg says, really, guys, you just have to stick to it and just keep going at it and going at it and going at it and trying, because you just can never give up. And that's the key. If you continue to work hard and to try, I mean, you can really attain anything. I think that's what Greg and Mike's program is really, what you guys are trying to explain to these kids about is, if you prepare yourself mentally and you prepare yourself, your body the right way physically, you should have nothing to be ashamed of at the end of the day. You should be proud of yourself at the end of the day. So, I mean, that's a fantastic message that you sent to well, to our followers and really to to your program. So that's fantastic, Greg. I think Nico had a couple more questions before we let you
Yeah,
go here.
before we let you go,
No worries,
I
man.
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, looking back at your career, is there anything differently that you would have done?
Yeah, I think I'm probably answered that with the last thing that I said, man. I regret nothing. I regret nothing
Definitely.
because I knew at the end of the day, I gave everything I could to try and live my dream. And I was very fortunate and I was very lucky to do so. But I know all that hard work that I put in behind it created that luck, right? And we need luck in everything that we do to kind
Yeah.
of be successful. There's luck is a part of it, but I'm a true believer that hard work creates your own luck. So I know that like I said, I was never the best player on any team that I played with, but I was going to be the first player at that training facility every single day, and I was going to be one of the last ones to leave every single day. And that was kind of my motto. And that's because I learned from so many good mentors and so many good people that kind of showed me the way and taught me the ropes or showed me the ropes. So I would say in anything, man, I don't regret absolutely anything. There's nothing I would have done differently. Um, it's like I said, my dream was to become a pro and play professionally, and every team that I played for was beautiful, right? I got to say I played against some of my idols and some guys that I would have never dreamt of playing against in my whole entire life. So guys that I wore their cleats when I was 9, 10 years old, and I got to be on the same field as some of those guys. So
All right.
very grateful for those moments.
So besides this mentoring program that you and Mike are working on, are we going to see a Greg Garza involved somewhere else in the soccer world? Maybe as a coach, general manager somewhere? No, no, no.
So many people ask me that if I ever want to be a coach, man. And look, I don't know how many planes I've been on. I don't know how many hotel rooms I've stayed in. I don't know how many buses I've been on. I don't know how many, man. It's thousands in the thousand. Those coaches, man, they do even more, right? It's like
Yeah.
as a player, man, there's so many things that you sacrifice as a player, and I think there's so many things that that you really, really go through as a player to continue that longevity of success when you're in it. And you know just being away from family, being away from the kids, and doing so much, it's a different type of preparation. But I feel like coaches, man, those coaches were there before me on those days that I was there first every single day, right? They were there before me already watching video, and they were, if I would have gone back and got a coffee at the end of the day, or if I had a meeting with somebody at the end of the day back at the facility in the evening, those dudes were still there, man. And it was like, oh my gosh, go home, man. There's only so much you can, there's only so much you can do. So kudos to people that work in sports that are in front offices, man, or that are equipment managers or physical therapists or doctors or whatever it may be, because there's so much more that goes in just of what the players are, right? They make it so easy for all of us. So
Absolutely.
it's kudos to those guys. And then I mean, even for kids who dream of not only becoming a professional athlete but just being involved in sports, there are also so many opportunities within sports to work within sports, and you can always keep that passion alive doing whatever you want, right? Whether you played the game at one point or whether you just love the game of soccer, man, there's so many opportunities. And that's a message that Mike and I always try and spread, right? Whether it's through communications, whether it's through marketing, whether it's through the corporate side, whether it's through whatever, man, whatever. There's so many different avenues and pathways that you can kind of always be involved in a sport that you love. It's just up to you to kind of take that path and grab onto that opportunity.
So
And
we're gonna see then a Greg Garza on the sidelines with his three kids, huh? Following their career.
Man, hopefully, man, hopefully that way. It's so funny because I'm I help kids and I mentor kids for a living, but and I love what I do, and I'm so passionate about it, and I love helping kids just understand their talent and understand how they can get the best out of what they already do. But my kids don't listen to me, man. So I'm gonna have to have Michael Parker as mentor, man. My
Man,
kids just see me.
I feel like
Go
it's
ahead.
every parent. It's every parent. I
Yeah,
have a kid
yeah,
that he's 6 years old, and I try
yeah.
to like coach him more or less, and he does not listen
Nah,
to
you
me at
won't.
all
You
either.
won't be able to, man. You won't be able to. Once he gets much older, double his age, then you can just send us. You can send him to us, man. We'll help you out because
Oh,
I'm in the
definitely,
same. I'm in
definitely.
the same boat, man. I'm in the same boat. My kids just see me as dad. They'll never see me as a guy who played for national team or won some cool trophies, they're like, "That, what are you talking about, man?" somebody else says something. Joseph comes over for dinner before he leaves. I'll be like, Joseph, yo, tell my son this. And then Joseph will leave and my son will be like, Dad, I gotta do this. I'm like, yeah, I've been telling you this for 6 months, man.
Well, you can show him this video, and you can see that. Hey, you can tell him, hey, there's one guy, an Uruguay Nomas guy, that actually, watched you
That's
and
funny,
followed
man.
your career. So there you go. There's somebody out here. But before we let you go, we got one more question for you. We're back in the MLS. Looks like it's gonna be an exciting year with all the craziness that went on yesterday. I assume your favorite team is Atlanta United to win it all, or do you have another prediction to make?
Right there. And
After what I saw,
this is actually the jersey that you guys wore.
Oh wow,
this is the 2017.
That's sick, dude. That's an OG jersey right there, man.
OG.
If I were to answer that question after like the 65th minute last night at Atlanta United, I would have said there's no freaking way. They were just so lackadaisical, and there was no energy, and they were just so out of sync. But then the last 10 minutes of the game, I might say, oh, they might have a chance. But I don't know. First of all, I don't have Apple TV, man, so I don't want to be able to watch any of the games. And
Oof,
I don't know
if you would have
I'm-
subscribed to our
well,
podcast, we were giving away a code. We could have hooked you up, man.
The only games I'm
away a
gonna
code
watch,
last
the
week.
only games I'm gonna watch are the ones that they invite me to go watch at the Mercedes-Benz, man, because I don't know if I'm gonna watch. I don't know if I'm gonna watch.
Well, if you have T-Mobile, you get MLS Pass for free the whole
Oh
season.
no way!
Yeah.
No way! Thank you for mentioning that to me because I'm
There you
T-Mobile.
go.
Dude. See, you get all the perks, man. There you go.
There you go.
All right, I'm gonna go on. I sign up for MLS Pass right now. All right, sounds good. I heard the graphics were somebody was showing me on their phone. It looks so clear.
It does.
Yeah.
It's
It's super clear.
We were watching the Inter
Yeah.
Miami game on the phone while we were at the stadium last night, and it was
Yeah.
awesome. We were watching it in
It
French
looked-
because we were watching the Montreal broadcast. So
Okay.
it was
Wow, okay.
interesting. Yeah.
That's
It was
that's
good. It
cool,
was
man.
good.
It looked good. I would say from what I saw, because I was at the stadium quite a long time yesterday and watching some games, I really enjoyed watching Austin. I think Austin FC could be a contender this year,
Okay.
and I think that's just kind of the building off of how well they did last year. I would say Austin or Dallas, man. Those are my two go-tos.
Okay. That's a big surprise.
Yeah. Austin, they might have it. They might have it this year. Who knows, man? You never know. I mean, Seattle will lose the first 10 games of the season, and then they'll make the playoffs, and they could make a run to win the whole thing. That's how MLS works, man. You never know. It's a flip of a coin, man. It's a flip of a coin on who's going to win.
That's the beauty of the MLS. That's the beauty of the MLS.
That is the beauty of the MLS, man. Yeah. The budget and the cap and all that kind of stuff, man. It makes it exciting. It's American sports, man. It's American sport.
It is. So
Awesome. Before we let you go, can you tell us where can we find more information about your mentoring program? And if anybody, because we have a lot of people from Miami listening to us, and maybe they want to do more, find out more about the program, and also maybe have their kids participate in it.
For sure. Yeah, we work with a lot of kids in Florida, actually, whether they're in IMG or other MLS Next or ECNL clubs or whatever clubs there are in Miami. Whether it's a super elite club or whether it's a club to where, whatever it may be, whatever type of player you are. We work with tons of kids all over the States. So you can find us at beyondgoalsmentoring.com. We're able to speak to as many kids or even create a more individual basis and kind of create that bond and create that relationship. One really cool thing is that we just launched a 501c3. We just launched a nonprofit a few months ago. So, we're looking, we love what we do on the for-profit side, and we love helping so many kids out there, get somewhere in life and help them kind of gain that mental edge and the mental strength and the confidence they need to be successful in whatever they do. But there is definitely a need out there to help, kids from lesser income communities or kids that are at risk or whatever it may be, and help them understand the value of using sport and creating opportunities for them. And so we're looking forward to that side of things as well. So hopefully we'll be able to put a dent in the community even more so than what we're already doing. And that's what it's all about, man. At the end of the day, Mike and I had this idea of giving back to the game of what it gave so much to us, and helping that next generation, man, helping those kids that have the opportunity to be a homegrown to not just finish off their first 3-4 years contract and sign multi-year contracts after. So that's what it's all about.
All right, Greg. Well, thank you very much, and special shout out to Mike. And Nico and I will definitely be sending our kids. Nico's kid's a little older than mine. Mine's only 2, but he touches it with his right and his left. So
there you go, man. There you go. You retire early, man. That's an early retirement right there, man.
There it is. That's what I'm working for.
Hey, man, as long as he likes a sport and if he's good enough, he's able to go to college.
Man,
the college.
Honestly, man, I don't say anything to my kids because at the end of the day, they'll always figure it out, and they're so resilient, right? Usually, you see former pros, you see all these parents. That's the biggest fault within soccer, dude. Is sometimes the parents that are too crazy on the sidelines, dude, kids will figure it out, man. If you see me at the field, dude, I am the furthest one away. I'm not even. I'm just letting them enjoy, man. Letting them enjoy the game. And I'll finish on this. Right? I'll finish on this, man. There's so many kids sometimes that come up to me and they might say, man, I mean, my oldest is very talented, but they'll say, man, he has to play pro, right? And my son will be sitting right next to me and I'll be like, what do you mean he has to play pro? And they say, well, you played pro. His brother-in-law went through, or his uncle went through the whole La Masia program. He plays in Cyprus now. I mean, he played at Barcelona for 10 years as a kid. And then his grandpa, my son's grandpa, all my son's grandpa played 17 years. He played Vasco da Gama. He played in Portugal for 14 years. So it's in their blood. But I mean, at the end of the day, I asked that kid the same question. I said, man, why do you play soccer? And the answer is simple, man, because he loves it and because he has fun. And that's the only reason I play soccer, man. I was just very fortunate to do so and at a pretty top and a pretty cool level. And I got to have some pretty cool experiences, but I only played the game because I loved it. I just got lucky in getting as far as I did. I worked extremely hard to get there, but I still played the game because it was my biggest passion, and it always will be. At my house, dude, there's always TV. There's always soccer on TV. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's not MLS because I don't have Apple TV.
Well, now you will.
But now I will because of T-Mobile, man. So thank you. Shout out to T-Mobile right there, man.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Greg. Well, awesome, we really appreciate you for coming on the show. We hope to get you back on a future show we talk about our youth football, because that's one of the programs that got a lot of buzz. So we'd like to have you back for that one if you have some time for us.
For sure, man. Yeah,
I appreciate it, and thanks a lot. Thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it, Greg.
Thank you guys, so man. Take care. Appreciate it. Take care, man. Have a good night.